Warriors, we are still growing. Today, kind of the first time person podcast with a guest, man. We're going to dive into being law enforcement officers and during the period of the 1990s. Everybody knows California was off the hook in the 90s, specifically SoCal, Southern California. So today we have Bruce Cardenas, also known as Cardenas.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, yeah.
So what's up, dude? Give us a little brief bio introduction about yourself.
Yeah, first, thanks for having me, man. It's been a pleasure getting to be a guest on here. We're trying to schedule this. Brief, I was a middle-class kid from New Jersey that always dreamed about being a police officer, but I really had no path to get there. I was an average CD student. Didn't do well. I was an athlete, but I didn't pay attention in class. And one of 5 kids, and I was the only child. My parents never talked about college, so I think they thought I was going to be a blue-collar worker. So when I got out of high school, our police department was a 6-person department in little hometown USA in New Jersey. And they used to let me do ride-alongs because I was kind of, I guess, a cop groupie. I wasn't even an explorer. And one day I asked the chief about a year after high school, hey, I really want to join the department, what I need to do. And he said, listen, you're young, you're immature. Basically, if you go in the Marine Corps, specifically, he didn't say the military, the Marine Corps, I'll hire you when you get out. So I was like, done.
Excellent.
Grabbed my best friend, went in on a buddy program, and we were in Paris Island. So that started the journey.
Nice. So Marine Corps, what year did you graduate high school, man? I ain't trying to age you.
Yeah, no, cool. Age me. 81.
1981. Not bad.
No.
I was born in 84.
There you go.
But
Shit.
Off to Paris Island. What was that experience like?
I got to tell you, and I recommend this to everyone that's not really clear on what they want to do. I'm not a big advocate of college, even though I got my degree when I was in the Marine Corps, at like a night program. I grew up. I mean, you go in the Marine Corps and discipline, structure, rules, regulations, all the things you really need to do to I think help succeed in life.
Facts.
And it really laid the groundwork for like, okay, be a big boy now.
Facts. How about the yelling? Were they yelling in your face?
Yeah. I always say this, if you ever watch a movie like Full Metal Jacket minus the Vietnam era, it's tense. I mean, I think that was the first time. It's interesting. In high school, I had got my black belt in Taekwondo. And, you think you're a bit of a badass.
Right.
One of my DIs one night, I kind of smirked at him, and he grabbed me in a chokehold. And I was literally thinking to myself, I'm going to die.
Right.
So my point was, even though I thought I was a badass, this guy could have easily killed me. So there was a lot of wake-up calls in the Marine Corps, like how there's always someone bigger, badder, and stronger. And
be humble or get humble.
Be humbled, yeah. And but it was a learning lesson.
What do they got there? Sand fleas in Paris Island?
They're known for sand fleas, sand pits.
Oof.
Burpees or whatever they call them now in the sand.
Yeah.
They used to make us, go out in the sand and run around with our weapons and then have to clean them. But yeah, it was a lot of, I call it mental gymnastics.
Well, it builds character.
But yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you learned how to do things as a team. There's no one man show. It's all team.
Cool. So how many years did you serve?
So I did 4 years active duty, and I did another eight as a reserve when I got out and became a police officer.
Where did you become a police officer at?
So ironically enough, I ended up in Camp Pendleton here on a weekend for a powerlifting meet. I used to compete in powerlifting in the Marine Corps, and while I was there, I know there was a career day on base. I saw this big sign, hiring, and it had CHP and all these companies, IBM and Trunk. And I was like, let me check this out. And I was literally like thinking, beautiful weather, beautiful people, and you can get paid to live here in California. And I didn't go back east. I processed to become a police officer.
What city?
LA City.
Damn, LAPD, right? So we didn't mention this from the get-go, right? LAPD officer during that time frame, man.
Yeah.
What year did you go to the academy?
I went to the academy in January of 88.
Where was the location of that academy?
It's right. It's been there. I think it's been there for 100 years now, right across from Dodger Stadium. 1880 Academy Drive, I think it's.
I'm not familiar with any of that.
Oh, yeah, right across from Dodger Stadium. It's a landmark. It's been there even in the Olympics in the 30s. I think they did shooting at the academy there.
Is that where they filmed the police?
There's many police shows. Yeah.
Police Academy movies.
Police Academy, One Adam 12. A lot of
That's where they filmed those movies.
Yeah, a lot of it. You'll see segments from the Police Academy there. A lot of hills, a lot of running in hills.
Is it a college? Like here in San Diego, I believe it's a college and they run that course.
No,
Or
no college. It's literally
actual
it's
academy?
literally academy with a range. There's and gymnasium, but there's classrooms, but they're just small old buildings.
Okay.
Well,
So
obstacle courses.
obstacle course?
Yeah, yeah.
Compared to the Marine Corps, how were those obstacle courses?
Much mellower. I mean, after the Marine Corps, I was prepared, and I didn't know what to expect, but it was much easier. Not easier for a person off the street, but
Correct.
easier if you had been in the military. It was okay.
What about off the streets? Kind of a struggle for
Yeah,
somebody?
yeah, off the streets. Yeah, some people washed out. I think my class started maybe with 85 people, and I think we washed out about 15.
Damn.
And some of that's, the background's continuing while you're processing. So
Really?
they even tell us when you start the academy, listen, if something comes up in your background, you may not be here.
And that's what was happening?
Yeah, someone comes out of the closet, a former this and X, financial stuff they discover, or people just fail tests, or they get washed out.
Right. Sleeping arrangements, dorms, barracks rooms, while in the academy.
In the academy you go home at night.
Oh, you go home at night?
Yeah, yeah.
Holy shit, that's cool, man. I kind of always liked that idea.
Yeah, I contemplated getting. It's funny. I first got an apartment locally, and the DI found out where I was renting, and she said, "Are you nuts? I rented in the hood."
Hell yeah,
so then,
bro.
Yeah, not knowing. So then I went back. I was living like an hour away.
So was that your first time to LA?
Literally the first time I've ever been in LA. Never knew.
No way.
Yeah.
So Camp Pendleton, Oceanside, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
You even got a view.
And that was a visit. I didn't explore it. I just went and then I flew back east. So I never even seen.
So here you are in freaking LA, man, and this is where this episode gets juicy because LA is LA, man. Everybody all over the world knows Los Angeles. What area did you get that apartment?
It was down in Southwest Division near the Coliseum.
Hell yeah.
And in a row houses, and I saw in the newspaper. Funny enough, dating myself, there wasn't internet then. It was just I found something in the newspaper, room for rent for like $400 a month.
Right.
And it was in the hood, like.
So no. So we're gonna dive into the whole no cell phones, no computers, no internet, and the newspaper. So what was it? The LA Times of some sort?
LA Times, yeah. As a matter of fact, when I was processing to be a cop, everything was paper applications. You'd write. And they'd send you or call it, the number, and they'd mail you an application. That was such a process because you fill it out, send it back. It's weeks and weeks.
Stamps and snail mail.
Snail mail, and there's no, now it's instant, do it online. But yeah, it was a process.
Nah, this will be good for all the current police officers and be like, damn, we have it pretty easy, fucking FaceTime the recruiter. Hey, man, hey, buddy.
Yeah, when do I start?
True. Wearing shorts and shit.
Yeah.
Academics wise, the academy, what are you learning? Law, policy, procedure, penal code?
Procedure, penal code, vehicle code.
Ooh, vehicle code.
All the things. And by the way, I was never an academic student. I was that was my biggest stress because I graduated #1 in self-defense and driver training because we got ranked. But academically, I was stressed, and I had a study partner, and we'd carpool together, and we were both on the same level, probably of intelligence. So, but by the way, quizzing all the time. I ended up acing the test, but that was still an anxiety-driven, because they tell you, hey, if you fail 3 tests, you're out.
Man, me and you are a lot alike. I think that's why we hit it off. So just, me and Bruce have hung out quite a few times. Yeah. And this freaking interview is long overdue. Yeah. Man, so I'm like you, man. When it comes to garrison or anything books, I suck, man.
I don't retain information well, so I just had to keep studying and quizzing. Yeah.
How long was the academy?
Gosh, it's 920 hours. So I don't know what that comes out to.
And you get your post certification.
Over about 6 months post certified.
Do they give you a gun, your own gun at the end of it?
Yeah. You're issued your gun at the beginning because you're obviously going through the shooting, and then you keep that firearm as you go into the.
Then they give you a badge.
Yeah, badge. Yeah.
What were those instructors like? Were they salty veterans of the department?
Yeah, a couple were. So we had different, DIs, right? So the guys on the range were hardcore. The guys in the PT were hardcore. My particular drill instructor, who was a female, and we actually maintained a friendship for years afterwards. She wasn't. She barked a lot, but wasn't the worst out of all the DIs. But it was no joke. I mean, you're doing push-ups and you're doing burpees when you screw up and all that stuff.
But I mean, had these dudes been like in the shit in their department?
A couple of them, yeah, for sure. Yeah, one of the guys particularly, he was a former SWAT guy that went up there to kind of finish his last few years.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Would they share stories with you guys? Like, this is what you expect on the force?
towards the end, at the beginning, during the academy, it's everything just policies, procedures, follow the rules. I'm not your friend.
Right.
Towards the end, they get a little more comfortable telling stories, or here's what you're going to look out for. Here's what's going to really happen out there.
And that seems to be the process with every single academy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if I think it's just a historical thing that's gone on for so many years. I'm not saying it's the right answer, but it's what they do.
Yeah. It's like they break you down and they build you back up.
Yeah, exactly.
So, your first, I don't know how it works, man. Area of operations, duty station, patrol.
Yeah,
base.
that's like playing the lottery. So they just like right before graduation, they say, "Hey, Cardenas, you're working Foothill Division. You got to report there next Monday, whatever." It was a short couple days off. And Foothill Division. So LA City is 585 square miles. It's a big city. 18 different geographical police stations. Now I think there's 21. They've expanded. So I was in Foothill Division, which was out in the valley, but Foothill Division is probably known mostly for the Rodney King incident. And that happened the 6 months after I left Foothill Division, but I worked with some of the guys that were involved with Rodney King.
We'll get there right now.
And I'll give you an example. My first training officer was an old Vietnam vet. Hardcore dude, hardcore. And I remember the first day I got in the car, you have to have long sleeves. So you couldn't wear short sleeves. And you're all buttoned up, high and tight.
Wow.
And he wasn't warm and fuzzy. And he drew it. And I swear to God, this is no true. I think it's still like that in the police cars. In between you and your partner, there's like a place where you could write notes. Because, if you're trying to jot down, looking for somebody. And he drew this face. And it had 2 eyes and 2 big ears and 2 big eyes and nothing else. He goes, you know what that is? That's you. You notice there's no mouth. And he says, I need you to do a lot of listening and looking, but I don't need you talking a lot. I don't need a bunch of dumb questions from you. Do you understand me? And I said, yes, sir. And that started our relationship. Now, of course, as you're with someone for days, you have lunch, he starts to know more about you. He knew I was a former Marine, but it was all, he was a hardcore guy. Like I wasn't, even though I knew my bearings very well from the Marine Corps. LA City is a weird city. It runs kind of some different directions. And sometimes he would just stop the car and say, where are we? Call for help. And he said, you better start knowing where we are at all times, because if I get shot, you better call for the troops. And there were a lot of learnings that I was like, holy shit, this is a real world.
Did that turn the light switch on for you?
Yeah, I learned pretty quickly. And then I started paying attention because he'd say, what street we just passed? I said, Branson. He goes, okay, good deal.
Awesome, dude.
But even now, years and years later, when I'm driving around, I'll be conscious of where I am.
Old habits die hard, man.
But it was good.
Survival is what it is. It's ingrained in your
I
brain.
learned great things from him, and I learned things not to do.
Yeah, we'll probably get to that too.
Yeah.
So the make and model of those old school police cars, man, were they the old school ones?
Yeah. What were they? The Crown Vic, the old original Crown Vics. Yeah.
Man.
Chryslers, 4 doors. Yeah.
Yeah, I never been inside of the front of a police car, only in the back, man, a couple times.
That's classic.
Weapons.
Yeah.
What was your sidearm issued?
In the academy, it was a Smith & Wesson 38 revolver.
Holy shit,
Chrome
man.
38 revolver, yeah.
What if I told you in the year 2006, that's what I got issued in the California Department of Corrections?
Wow, I'd be surprised, but yeah.
All the way up until 2012, 13, 14?
Wow, I think about maybe, I don't know what period of time it was, maybe a year we were able to switch. They started issuing the Berettas, and I happen to, I own my own Smith & Wesson 9mm that qualified to be able to carry, so it worked out well.
So that's cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I forgot about the North Hollywood shooting, how they were outgunned. With those weapon systems. So, Foothill Division, you're there, you're learning, you leave. And then what year did the Rodney King incident happen? 92?
No, before that. So I was I left probably at the end of 89. I think it was maybe 90. I'd have to Google that. I don't remember. But a couple of the guys that were involved with the incident, I actually worked shifts with them occasionally.
So you knew them personally?
I knew them personally, yeah. And then when the Rodney King, I was in Hollywood Division by the time the Rodney King happened. And I had a lot of thoughts about it. I mean, I worked with some of those guys, and listen, obviously that was a bad situation. Poor tactics, poor training, a lot of everything. But, yeah.
Your move to the Hollywood Division, was that voluntary, involuntary, rotational?
So what's interesting, and I'm go back, because I'm a relationship guy in life. And I quickly figured out, because they said, hey, when your probation's up, you're going to get 3 wishes. It's like I felt like I was in the Marine Corps again, like not really choosing where I can go. But I decided I don't know why I did this. I called Hollywood Division because a couple of my friends said, Hollywood's where you want to go. It's the most versatile place. You got gangs, you got rich people, you got everything and anything. It's the best division to work. I called and made an appointment with the captain. I wasn't even off probation. I was still in Foothill. And he took my meeting, and I went and saw him, and he said, I'm not sure why. Why do you want to see me? I said, Captain, I've heard great things about Hollywood. He goes, I really want to come here and work. He goes, you really don't have a choice. He goes, the city tells you where you're going to go. He goes, I said, I'm well aware of that, but I want to work here next. And he said, you got a lot of gumption, man. He goes, I can appreciate that. I ended up getting orders to work in Hollywood.
Hey, man, closed mouths don't get fed, bro.
And we kind of hit it off, and some other things came of that relationship while I was in Hollywood, which I'll tell you a little bit. But yeah, he said, I don't think I've ever had anyone ask me to come work. And he goes, but you know what? I'll see what I can do. And next thing you know, I'm going to Hollywood.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Nah, things happen for a reason, dude. And, a lot of people think that things are luck or you're just fortunate. You got luck. But a lot of it's hard work and putting in that verbal communication with people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that shit kicks off in Foothill, Rodney King. What kind of did it send a shock around the department?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think it uncovered a lot of things, obviously. And right or wrong, I mean, obviously that was a bad situation, poor tactics, poor use of force. I mean, a one guy that could have easily been taken down and hogtied or tased. So a lot of learnings from that, but it did send a ripple effect, and it caused a lot of new training policies, new procedures, new everything.
So I don't know the policies back then, right? Because policies change all the freaking time. Were the policies looser back then? Was that the policy, or were they out of policy? I mean, you don't have to give up anything, but I mean, I'm not going to say was that the norm, but I guess you could hear what I'm saying.
I think back then, I mean, listen, if you're competent with a PR-24, which is the baton, I think the one guy, Powell, I don't remember the name, whacked him like 30 times.
That makes sense.
That's not very effective.
That makes sense, yeah.
And that's why I'm a big advocate now of like martial arts or jujitsu or tying someone up, because it looked horrible, and it always looks horrible whenever you see a police officer just going to town with a baton.
Yeah, that was I would say that was a dumb question on my part, but that was a perfect answer on yours. Like, hey, Hector, it doesn't matter what the fuck the policy is, man. If you can effectively subdue somebody fast and quick, then
that's the ideal situation.
Correct.
And back then, it's no secret, and I know it's changed now, but there was also a thing, not so much the Rodney King incident in general, but even my training officers and old timers, it was called contempt to cop.
What is that?
Contempt to cop. So if someone talked back or someone ran, there was usually you physically taken down, or it wasn't just you ran. In other words, you disrespected the police.
Right. We would see those on the police chases when the helicopters would catch, right, and they'd be like, "Oh, that dude's about to catch an ass whooping."
Yeah, exactly. And that was kind of a standard. Now, I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
No, it was just normal programming.
It was programming. I worked with old timers that you ran, you got your ass kicked. I mean, I think that's changed a little bit now, but and it also changed my mindset, because I'm thinking, shit. Listen, sometimes. I mean, I thought to myself, if I was 17, I'd run from the police.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying right or wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is great that we're talking about like just the mindset, the culture, the society, that time frame.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to dive quite yet into, did body cameras change that? Did cell phones change that? But it possibly did, man. It probably, like you said, brought to light a lot of things that.
Yeah. It definitely did. We could talk about that too, yeah.
For sure. So that happened. Talk to me about the riots.
So the riots were sparked because of the Rodney King verdict.
Correct.
And that obviously led to, I think, 7 days of the city being shut down.
Did they pull cops from every area to mass them up in one area?
It was such a mess. Back then, it's interesting now, if something happens, there's a school shooting or there's an incident in the public, departments are so organized now. They rally, they get together, they have a command post. When the riots went down, I remember I left the station, and keep in mind, I didn't have a cell phone.
Ooh, yeah.
I got home, and I have an answering machine for anyone that remembers what those are. Hit the button and says, hey, Cardenas, I don't know if you saw on the news or not, but there's some unrest, and I need you to come back into work. Bring your equipment. Boom. So I left my house and went back. I was assigned to Hollywood then, and I never went home.
Holy shit.
I stayed because what happened was working 12-hour shifts. And then ironically enough, a friend of mine had a studio in Hollywood, a recording studio. He was so worried about it being burned down. He said, Bruce, listen, I'll pay you. Just come. I have a room. Just you and your partner can sleep in here. We'll feed you. But I want someone on the property so they don't burn down our building. And he sat on the rooftop with a shotgun. So that's the environment we're living in, like store owners. And it was an interesting time. Like if you remember back in the news, the footage, store owners would be in Koreatown sitting out in front with rifles, pistols, even the women, to protect their property. And that happened everywhere. And we just turned a blind eye to it. Hey, listen, you got to protect your property.
Oh, that's interesting to hear, man.
Yeah, like people were fully armed. And because obviously a lot of the city burned down, but people finally, well, you're not going to burn down my mom and pop, my liquor store. We're going to protect it.
Hey, I was all for an advocate for that, man.
Yeah.
They got like stickers, rooftop Koreans, and
Yeah.
AK-47s.
So the riot went on. We were not organized. We probably waited 12 hours to properly assemble, and we had a big assembly at the Coliseum in the parking lot, and they were busting cops from all over. But probably quite a bit of the damage was done 24. It took us probably 12 to 24 hours to really get our stuff together, which doesn't reflect well on law enforcement, but it just shows that at that period of time, departments were not tactically ready for that.
Right.
They didn't know. They were like, wait, there's a riot. What's that mean?
Was anybody in charge? Were people trying to take charge? Were too many people in charge?
At the time, the chief was at odds with the mayor. So there was a rift there. And then the second in command, I don't know, there was some rumors he was, out of town with his girlfriend or something. So there was a lot of scrambling. And I think his wife was.
What about his wife?
Yeah. So I think what happened was it was all these delays of, wait, let me get a hold of the chief. Let me get a hold of the deputy chief. We ended up getting it together. And by the time the second day, we backed back into Hollywood and kind of set up a perimeter. It's interesting. Some city, like Culver City, did it amazing. They got all their sanitation trucks and blocked every thoroughfare. You couldn't come through the city unless you pulled out your ID and said, "I live in this city. I'm going home." Cool. So there was no opportunity for people to come burn down the city. But a lot of learnings, a lot of use of force, a lot of people. I say this a lot of law-abiding citizens became opportunists. So they would see they'd smash in the front windows of a Sears and Roebucks, and people just started just flooding in, grabbing it. And I think people that were normal law-abiding citizens would go in and, hey, let me get my TV while I'm here. And you'd see people rolling down the street with big screen TVs. And it got to the point where it's not saying we gave up, but there was cops that were using zip ties and just zip tying people to fences and leaving them there.
No
Yeah,
way,
it was crazy. Yeah,
dude, this is cool.
Because they really couldn't, they didn't have the bandwidth to really take them into custody. But I think they figured, well, F it, you're not going to take the big screen TV, and I'm gonna zip tie you to a chain link fence.
Yeah, if anything, you're going to learn a lesson.
Yeah.
Eventually somebody's going to cut you out.
Yeah. No one was left.
If not, the ants are going to get you.
No one's left to die.
Right.
But it was anarchy at its best. We got shot. Our car, someone threw a Molotov cocktail at our car, bounced off the back fender and blew up on the street, and it was crazy.
Were you scared?
No, I don't think scared, but more like adrenaline up, a little, maybe fear, because the firemen were getting shot at. Fire trucks getting shot at. And listen, anyone could get shot, right?
Everybody loves firemen, man. They're good people.
But they were shooting at the fire trucks, and they
right.
didn't want them to come and put out the fires.
Oh, that's like terrorists.
So then we started assigning there was a cop on every fire truck and a car following. So I don't know if scared, but it was definitely a fear of God, people are dying out here. I don't know the total. I'd be making it up. You'd have to Google it, but well over 100 people died.
No way.
Yeah, caught burnt in fires and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Shit, dude. The only one I was aware of was that one truck driver. They threw the brick at his head.
Reginald Denny was the suspect. What was the guy's name? Anyway, he lived.
That's what I'm saying, though. That was the only thing.
Yeah, he got hit in the head with a brick.
That I remember seeing.
No, there was a lot of death during the whole week.
Wow,
Probably
dude.
a lot of murders that would go unsolved, right? You just
for sure
kill someone, throw them in a burning building.
Like you said, opportunities, man.
Yeah. It was total anarchy, though.
How close were you to the chaos?
Well, it was different. So when the first night we were deep in the chaos, and then once we got it organized, we backed up into Hollywood where we were assigned and said we got to protect Hollywood, because what happened was the looters, or whatever you want to call it, the bad people, if you will, they were moving north. So they were like, okay, hold on, we're gonna set up a skirmish line. At some point, we're not letting them go any further. That's what
Right.
we cut it off at Hollywood, at Western and Santa Monica.
Was the goal to detain, arrest, and incarcerate the suspects, or just stop the mayhem from
Stop the
happening?
mayhem, because arresting people was pointless.
Pointless?
We had buses we were putting suspects on, and what are we doing with them? I think it was just to stop the chaos and the burning and the looting.
Which, in a tactical standpoint, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you got to put out the fucking fire.
Yeah, when you going to
before-
arrest someone for taking a big screen TV, we're trying to stop you from burning down the whole city.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that happened. Man, it almost seemed like LA was just back to back to back.
There was
to
always,
back.
yeah, I think over the years, there's always been a crisis or a situation or something.
So what was the tempo like? Tempo like daily? Were they constant long hour shifts? Chaos on your regular beat?
You mean after riots or before?
Well, like in that time frame, before, during, after, like you didn't have a cell phone.
Yeah, I remember I had a pager at some point. It might have been around that time I had a pager, so you have to go to a payphone and get a message.
Was there a lot of violence going on?
Yeah, the murders were high at that period of time in LA, because at the time, obviously the Bloods and Crips were big organizations.
So a lot of gang violence.
A lot of gang violence. I never told you this. My second day on the job in Foothill Division, there was the family called the Bryant family. They're a gang, and I stood on the crime scene. It was I'm a kid from New Jersey, and I still have the picture. Some LA Times took a picture of me standing at the crime scene tape. 3 dead and 5 shot total over a drug deal. And that was all gang related, drugs and gangs. So that was very, very common in LA for a gang shooting, Crips and Bloods. And they were huge then. I mean, you literally could see, someone's wearing blue, someone's wearing red. You don't go down their street,
That's what I'm saying, man. From looking at all those old pictures, it just seemed like that whole era was different, dude.
For sure.
You had these big ass dudes.
Yeah.
Big, and they were probably yoked from the going to the pin.
Yeah, for sure.
Going to the pin, right? They got the red, the blue, all flamed out, and they were serious. They were riding for their cause.
They dominated. It was a big business. I mean, why the Hispanic gangs were big, 18th Street and all, but they weren't, the black gangs were huge.
Because then eventually there would be a lot of Hispanics that would overtake those communities.
Yeah, yeah. And what happens is, with gang members, I mean, you either die or go to prison, right? I mean,
Wow.
very few OGs out there.
True.
So
True. How was your interactions with those Bloods, Crips on the streets?
So it's interesting. I had an interesting philosophy. I mean, even though I got involved with some shit and, there was some use of forces and people go to jail and there's bad people, I had to separate people. And I learned very quickly of the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And I really learned how to treat people. And and I was pretty jacked then. I was yoked and working out every day. And I remember you'd be in the hood and you'd roll up on a couple of hardcore guys. They were obviously, wearing the wife beaters and, just hanging out, right? And they're out of the joint. And I remember I worked with a couple partners and they'd say, hey, let me see your effing hands. Let me see your ID. And I remember one time, all it did was put those guys on defense.
Right.
And I started thinking to myself, you know what? Let's roll up on them. Hey, guys, what's going on? How you doing? Hey, can I see your ID? We're just, there's some stuff going on in the neighborhood. And I started getting respect from them.
Facts.
Because they'd start saying, hey, Cardenas, thanks for being cool, man. You didn't your partner wants to put us on our knees. And I started telling my partners, listen, as long as we could see their hands and no one's trying to fight us, who cares, man? The guy's who gives a shit he was in the joint?
And it's not even about being cool. It's just like you said, man, treating like, hey, you're going to give them what they give you.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember one time, it was crazy. We were talking about lifting weights with these guys. And, I guess in the joint, they say, how many wheels can you do?
Yeah.
Plates. And we were talking about benching, and the guy said, you think you got a lot going on, Cardenas? And I said, I don't know. We ended up doing a push-up. I don't know if I told you this. We did a push-up contest in the street. And I had my vest on, all the equipment. And my partner at the time, I go, hey, just keep an eye on him in case,
right.
why I'm getting pushed doing push-ups. That was not, people would probably look at me like there's something wrong with me. But I ended up having, let's just call this, I had a street rapport with these people. I wasn't friends with them.
I hear you.
But when they would see me from now on, they'd be like, what's up? We're good, right? Like there was no, and I knew, and let me just tell you this, and you could watch these old police movies. I knew if I was going to ever get my ass kicked, it wasn't going to be by the people I engaged with. It would be by people that maybe didn't know me, but those guys weren't going to screw with me. Not because I was bigger or stronger, because they were like, he was cool.
Not just that. I'm sure that if and when it did kick off, you would be able to handle your own.
Yeah.
And I think they knew that.
Yeah. But I always tell my partners, sometimes we're working people, and I said, your mouth is going to get you in trouble. Talking back to these guys for no reason. I mean, listen, who cares? Just
It's funny you say that being a police officer on the streets
Yeah.
because communication is massive inside the prison system,
Yeah.
right? Because we don't have guns.
Yeah, right.
And we're outnumbered.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to be good with this.
Yeah.
But,
But I work with people, hey, let me see your effing hands, da da da. And sometimes there were little mousy girls that, I'm like, we get back in the car, I said, if this goes south, I said, well, am I on my own? I got you. Do you? Like, cause
I hear you,
Yeah.
man. I hear you.
So I think I learned how to work as a public relations person, and the spirit of law was really important, not the letter of law. And I also learned why we learned all this book stuff. The world's black. It's not black and white. It's gray.
Facts.
And I'd stop people that I probably could have taken to jail and ruined their life. And I realized, who cares if he's got a little weed on him? Who cares if he's got a crack pipe? I mean, at the end of the day, dude, throw that shit away. Get your fucking ass back home, and get your shit together.
Hey, back then is when they used to pull you over drinking and driving and tell you, hey, pour out the beer, man.
Yeah.
Fucking make it home, don't
Yeah, and by the way, you're also putting, I'd put myself at risk of getting in trouble because if
Right.
something happened. But I listen, there was many times I'd stop people, law-abiding citizens even, and I'd say, hey, let me see your license and registration. And they say, well, it's in the glove box. I said, okay, cool. Well, I have a gun in the glove box. I said, listen, here's the deal. As long as you're not trying to shoot me with that gun, I just need your license and registration. And my point being is, I don't really care. Like, I'm here to write you a ticket, And I think sometimes cops get too wound up in trying to do things above and beyond. And there's good people out there.
Well, let's fast forward to today's day and age. It does seem like people are trying to hurt cops.
For sure.
Purposely.
Yeah.
For no reason. Did you see that? Do you see the difference from then to now?
No, I think it's always gone on.
It's always gone
Yeah,
on?
I think it's always gone on. I mean, different levels. I mean, yeah, there's a period of time we went to training where the Hells Angels and the biker gangs had training on how to kill cops. I mean, even in the joint, they would have training class on how to kill cops. I don't think it's ever not been there, and I've always been aware of it.
Right.
But I've also been aware not everyone's a bad person,
Right. Well,
and especially, listen, you come out of the joint, and you did your time, and you did 10 years or whatever. Cool. Hopefully, you reformed yourself, and you're now working.
Well, that makes sense because being on the streets, you're encountering former felons, criminals, gang members, civilians.
Yeah.
You have to be able to distinguish all of those identities.
And I was pretty good at that, trying to.
Is that difficult for most?
I think it's difficult for a lot of people because they're trained in the academy, and all they know is, hey, I'm running you. I'm filling out an FI card. I'm going to run you for warrants. And as far as I'm concerned, you're a bad person until I find out you're not.
Oh,
and
you're
I would
a
look
bad
at
person
it.
until you find out you're not.
I would look at you. You're a decent person until I find out something's not good here. I don't care if you're tatted up. I don't care if you're blood or crip. I don't really care,
Right.
As long as you're not trying to kill me or my partner, and
And what if they were trying to kill you and your partner? Did things get turned up?
Yeah, of course, that's a different conversation. That's where you get use of force. I was involved with a couple shootings, a couple shootouts. I mean, don't get me wrong. Being kind does not mean what's to say. I'd rather be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the.
That's I've coined that.
And that's how I looked at it as police work. I was trained. I was ready for whatever happened, the worst day in my life. But I also realized, hey, you know what? I'm cool just gardening over here, just minding my own business.
You had mentioned to me about two different shootings in Hollywood. Why don't you talk to me about that situation?
Yeah, Hollywood was probably, it's interesting from the media standpoint. It was never really well known because there was no there was no Channel 5 in the air then. There was, the LAPD had a helicopter, but there was no news choppers. And I remember it was early 90s, and there was a guy, his name, believe it or not, I still remember, Michael Flowers, was wanted for attempt murder on a highway patrolman. It was down in Orange County. He got stopped by the highway patrol. They pulled him over. He came out of his pickup truck with an M1 carbine, which is an old Korean War kind of fully loud gun, big. Shot up the highway patrol car and left. And so they obviously had the license plate. They knew who it was. And 2 days later, I'm in roll call in Hollywood division, and they have little, they used to give out these little mugshots, paper, little like trading cards, and said this guy's wanted for attempt murder in a high patrolman. He had a flyer. They said his last known address is Hollywood. And the crazy thing is, I'm like, okay, that's weird. So just be aware. About 3 hours into the shift, Ted Knott, I remember him. He was someone I worked with occasionally. But he was in another car. Said, "Hey, I think I have this attempt 187 suspect, attempt murder suspect, at a payphone at Western and Hollywood Division, Hollywood Boulevard, and we're not that far from there." And I guess he sees the police car drive by, so he hangs up the payphone, gets in the same pickup truck that he shot up.
Wow.
A pursuit starts, and he smashes out the back window of this. It was one of those at the time. Remember those little mini pickup trucks like the Toyota?
Yeah.
I don't know what they were called, but the little ones. And he started shooting this M1 carbine while he was driving.
Out the back window?
Kind of like I don't know how he's doing it, but
Right.
we're the second car. We're the number 2 car in the pursuit. And we're running around for about 15 or 20 minutes. He's going eastbound on Sunset Boulevard, right in front of KTLA TV on Sunset Boulevard, and he crashes head-on into this Range Rover, which is a really important part of the story. He crashes head-on into this Range Rover, and it's an Arby's restaurant, which is still there, spaghetti factory across the street, and a Thai restaurant in the other corner. I remember, I picture it to this day exactly what it is. He gets out of his pickup truck and comes up over the hood and shoots at us. And he didn't hit our car, but he hit the front car. And the fatal mistake he made, so we all bailed out, and it's a running gun battle through the Arby's restaurant. And he's behind, like, at the time, those news, you get the newspaper out of the news.
Yeah.
So he's getting behind those little, but he fatally makes the mistake of trying to walk backwards while shooting. So we're taking cover. He ultimately died. I think he got hit, a handful of times. I think there was 4 of us involved with the shooting. And when the smoke cleared, I remember the sergeant said, "Hey, anyone that got involved with the shooting." By that time, cops are coming from everywhere, right? Help call came out. And we gathered as 4 of us. And my partner at the time, I was the passenger. I wasn't driving. And my partner came over and goes, "Why are you're going over? You're going over with the guys that were in the shooting?" I said, "Yeah." I go, "Where were you?" Dude, I hit the ground. I got under the car. And he was way senior than me. He had like 10, 15 years over me. So we engaged a shootout. But then we go to check on this Range Rover. This woman, blonde woman's in there. No one will remember. You got to Google her, but her name is Kathy Smith. She used to be a fitness icon back in the day. She was in her prime. She just happened to be in the middle of this whole situation, so that was kind of crazy.
Was she struck by gunfire or glass?
Nothing happened. The only bullets that went astray, believe it or not, was in the Thai restaurant. They found it in the kitchen in in a frying pan or something. But Thank God, because bullets were flying. So that was it. That ended, and we all.
Did you guys have handguns? Did anybody have long guns?
No long guns. No one pulled out a shotgun. It was all handguns, and we got medals for valor from that because we stopped. He was a attempt murder suspect, and he actually had called 911 that morning and said, "Hey, I'm going to start killing cops. That's my mission." So it was.
Was he just like a psychopath type?
Psycho, yeah. He was drugged out, and I don't remember really why he was like that or what happened, but yeah, he was a bad dude.
The aftermath after that, is there an investigation, a debriefing?
Yeah, debriefing. Everyone shows up. The chief shows up. You go through a walkthrough with the shooting team, which is really part of internal affairs of the district attorney's office. And I remember it was kind of funny, not funny, but when your next assignment, because hey, go back to the station, and when you come back to work, we're gonna have you work the desk. Didn't want you to feel till you're cleared. You got to go see a shrink, right? I'm on the desk for like 5 days. If you ever worked a desk in a police department, it's like nonstop. It's nonstop nonsense. And I'm talking about everything from missing kids to, which is important, but missing property, homeless people, fights, domestic violence. It's nonstop stress. And I remember I go see the shrink, and she says, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm good. She'll talk about the shooting." I said, "I'll be honest, the only stressful part is you've had me on the desk for the last week. That was more stressful than shooting." So that was kind of takeaway for me on that. But yeah, we cleared. We had to go down and do ballistics and test our guns, and they wanted to see who shot them. And
damn,
very clean. It's ironically enough, the helicopter was right overhead, the LAPD helicopter, because obviously, and they had a federal judge in the helicopter who ended up being a witness to it, believe it or not, because he was there. And we were all cleared. I mean, it was justified to the fullest.
Wow. What about the North Hollywood bank shooting? Were you involved in that?
Yeah, so North Hollywood, that was fast forward. I don't remember the year. I'd have to check, but quite a few years later, at least 10 years later, I was assigned to Van Nuys Division. The shooting occurred in North Hollywood, and my unit, we were like an undercover unit. There was like 6 of us. We were at Denny's restaurant, and the name will come to me while we're talking. The guy put out a help call. He got shot in the hip, a cop. He, I guess, rolled up on the bank and they shot a couple rounds. They blew his hip out. If you can imagine, getting hit with like an AK-47.
7.62.
Yeah, seven. Yeah, it's not the movies, right? He
Right.
literally blew his leg off almost. So we rolled from Denny's. By the time we got there was quite a few cops. It was like a big, but we quickly learned, as you know, being former military and everything, those rounds are deadly. When people think, oh, I'm just going to get behind something, they'll go right through a car door.
Like butter.
Yeah, so we quickly learned we were outgunned. So I mean, even though there was people shooting, and it was pointless. You're shooting a 9mm, 100 yards away.
And they had body armor.
They had body armor.
Double
They
pointless.
they were jacked up on some painkillers or something. They did a lot of crazy shit to survive that. But one of the things, is it Brett Papworth? I can't remember. He had the smarts. He went to the local. There was a gun shop. And said, hey, I don't have time to explain, but we need to take 3 or 4 of your ARs. And they just gave them to him, gave him ammo. By the time that all happened, SWAT, the guys that actually ultimately stopped him, they believe one guy shot himself. So
yeah, he did.
Simultaneously getting shot at. He shot himself, but the other brother, 4 SWAT guys were coming from the gym because they were still in their PT gear. They literally threw on their vests and had their helmets on, but they had shorts on. They ended up they found him and they shot him, and they actually took him out at his ankles under the car, and then he was down and out. But that lasted a long time. They held us down. We didn't hold them down. They held us down.
As a kid, I watched that entire thing live.
It was scary. They were just walking around spraying, and there again, I always, it's interesting the mindset of people, because they actually took a tactical. If they actually thought that through and took a tactical position, they probably could have killed some cops and killed people. They just were just spraying and shooting and.
Yeah, I forget what drug they were on. I don't want to say adrenaline, because adrenaline will give you that energy, but they calmed their nerves.
They did something.
Down.
I remember. Yeah, they took something prior
to calm them down.
Yeah, they were pretty methodical. They were pretty composed, but they didn't have enough sense to wait. Let me just take a position of advantage and start like pinging people, which is good for us.
Facts. Was that a chaotic? Dumb question. Was that scenario under control? Meaning everybody's kind of moving in unison, or was kind of
no, completely chaos, completely out of control? Because here's the thing. Once again, goes back to, as much as these big police departments are prepared, they weren't. Well, now, now everyone has long rifles. Sergeants have long rifles. You can have your own long rifle issued. Think about that. No one had a long rifle, so you're literally helpless, because what are you going to shoot a 9mm around 100 yards?
And that change happened after North Hollywood.
And now it doesn't matter if you're in Boise, in the middle of nowhere. Every law enforcement agency in the world now has long rifles and shotguns with slugs and scopes and everything. But that changed it. That changed the entire.
The motorcycle cops, they'd be riding around with their
motorcycle cops, yeah. But that changed it, because we were literally helpless. Like, think about that. People are shooting real, 223 rounds. And
prior to that incident, did you guys ever think, it's just a matter of time before we get outgunned by the criminals, or was that a surprise?
I think that was a complete surprise. It really was. I honestly, you think about that. Why would that have never been a process in a practice in the United States? I guess we were content with our shotguns and our pistols, right? I mean, unless, of course, you were like a SWAT team where you had a sniper. They've been in existence for 20 years, but
right.
But that's not the norm.
Correct.
Yeah.
Nowadays, man, active shooter protocols.
Everyone's coming in with an AR.
Yeah.
Or
except the Uvalde. The Uvalde department.
Story.
But I get it.
And we're trained now. Everyone's trained now for active shooter and first in. And you want to. I always say this because I don't know the mindset of the person I'm working with. I say this because I've been around enough badasses, right? Just like you have. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You really have no idea what someone's going to do till the shit hits the fan.
That's the truth.
And I worked with guys that they talked a good game. And I remember a couple guys in the Marine Corps. I remember a couple of guys, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And they'd be the first to be like pissing their pants and hiding behind the tree.
That's the truth.
So you really never really know till it's either fight or flight, right? And that's the same thing with cops. You're either going to fight or you're going to take off.
That's interesting, man. So I kind of want to gather your input on today's generation of cops. Do you think they're mentally prepared for the job?
I think a percentage is, and I don't want to make up a number. I bet it's a low percentage that are truly prepared mentally for the job, because they lowered the standards. And by the way, they lowered the standards when I went in the police academy. So it's almost embarrassing to think I went in the police academy in January of '88. I don't know. That's a long time ago, right? It was no longer a requirement to climb over the 6-foot wall. You could drop out of a run and still graduate. So what I'm saying is, fast forward now, there's no height requirements. The physical is pretty much eliminated. You do PT,
Right.
but if you can't finish in a course or an obstacle, it's not a disqualifier. To me, I think it would be the opposite, right? Firefighters they don't have that problem. They still have those standards because to me, I think about this. If my loved one's having a situation, whether it's police or fire, I hope you can carry my boyfriend or girlfriend or significant other down the hall, right?
Right.
We've lowered the standards so much that I don't think that's even a possibility now. So I think it's probably maybe 20% of men, maybe some women that are literally like, I'll go through a wall of fire for you. The rest are like, hey, it's a paycheck, bro, and I don't want to get my uniform dirty, and I'm not even sure about shooting at people.
So physical requirements have been watered down. What about communication skills, man? Because we grew up before the internet, before cell phones, where you had to talk to people. These new generation do not necessarily talk to people.
They don't even like talking to people. Now, even though part of the academy is now, I remember there was a period of time when I was on the job, it was called verbal judo, and they went through these courses. And that's all important, right? You got to learn how to talk. I'd rather talk you in the jail than fight you. But people nowadays, it's just what I'm saying is, I don't think we have the right caliber of people, but because no one, and I think part of it is they see what goes on in the news, right? So you see, and you see the George Floyd, or you see the bad things that happen, and I don't want to be a cop, I'm going to go to jail. Instead of thinking, wait, that was one isolated incident, I'm still a good person, I want to provide service to the community. It's extremely hard. I went to the fitness expo recently. There was 12 police departments there recruiting, and I went around talking to them. They said, we can't find people, people don't want to be cops. Like college grads, they just don't want to be cops. They're like, why am I going to work for that to lose my job? I got to wear a body camera. I'm judged by all these people. But that's the mindset. So it's stopping people.
So even me at this age, I think, why would I be a police officer? Get fired, go to prison, or get killed.
Yeah.
The possibilities are high, man.
A high possibility. And even now, like I'm a reserve with the sheriffs, right? So we're wearing body cameras now. And I got to tell you, there's good and bad with that, right? So the body camera, to me, it puts me on notice, right? So maybe if I'm in a bad mood, I'll probably refrain from being a little more of a asshole if I'm in a shitty mood. And on the other hand, it also, for the suspect or the person you're dealing with, they see you have a body cam, they realize they can't make up a story.
Yeah.
They can't say something that wasn't true, so they'll also de-escalate.
Man, those inmates in Donovan did not get the memo, man. They'll be baiting. They'll bait you
with a body camera.
With the body cameras, they learn how to. They learned how to manipulate it.
Yeah.
Like saying, "Oh, I'm suicidal. I got chest pains." Yeah. And the second you don't act on it, that's your job, man. That's your ass. So they learn how to manipulate that system.
And the one thing you find now in the modern day is if you do a traffic stop, no matter where you are, or just engage someone, there's 17 people with cell phones out, just waiting for something to happen.
What's your take on complacency? And I've always heard that there's no such thing as a routine traffic stop.
There is no such thing as a routine traffic stop, even though there are routine traffic stops. You always have to be prepared. I mean, I could tell you incidents where cops have been shot just walking up on a car. I mean, look at the poor deputy 2 weeks ago. Guy shot in the head in Palmdale sitting in his car.
Right.
Guy pulled up next to him and shot him in the head. So there's nothing about routine, and I will say this, complacency is a killer. That doesn't mean you have to walk up with your gun out ready to shoot, but you also have to be constantly observing, looking for warning signs. But inherently, it's a dangerous job, right?
So you've always, you're big, dude, and you said you were lifting at that time also. Was working out part of a de-stressor for you, part of your normal routine, off duty?
Always part of my lifestyle. And a little bit of a depressor.
Decompressing?
Yeah, decompress. Yeah, it's a way to a little stress relief, and yeah. You gotta have some out, right? That's what I say.
Did you know a lot of cops that were married to the job and just that was their life? That was their identity?
For sure. I suffered a little bit of that. I remember I felt like if I took a few days off and something happened, I'd be like, oh shit, like I had FOMO, like I missed out on something. And I remember at the time my wife was like, dude, like the city's gonna go on without you, man. Like you could hang up your Batman outfit.
Right.
But yeah, people get caught up in it. At the end of the day, I always tell people this, listen, as much as we're dedicated to a city or a county, how dedicated are they to you? Put in your time, be dedicated, but realize your job, the minute you're gone, someone's replacing you.
Did they ever talk about the pendulum back then?
No, I don't. What that is?
So they would say that, hey, things were one way within law enforcement. You know, we were heavy-handed,
No.
and then now it's this way. But don't worry, the pendulum will swing back. Anything to that nature?
I've heard that term now that you say that, but no, not in regards to that. I think it's interesting the environment we're in now with the woke and everything that's going on. I think eventually it's going to swing back to some level of normalcy, but now it's just out of control.
Right.
Yeah, it's literally the world's out of control.
Facts.
Yeah, and it does hurt first responders and law enforcement and military. It hurts everybody.
Facts.
Yeah, yeah,
It hurts those that are boots on the ground, man,
Yeah.
that are in the trenches.
yeah.
So yeah, that's why I was asking what I was asking, man, because things are so out of control, man.
Oh, for sure.
So how does the 90s gang banging, Bloods and Crips differ from today's little youngsters running around with guns?
I think now there's still gangs. I mean, I think the Hispanic gangs have definitely taken over where the others have left off 18th Street, and there's different factions. But then there's also just, I call them poo butts, you know, those kids running around with guns, and
Right.
I think it's cool now, but it's a different kind of mindset.
What
And,
about-
and also, as you see, people are doing now things, acts for social media too, you know, that they probably wouldn't have before, like these store takeovers, or you saw this retired police chief got ran over by a car
I did see that. I was about to bring that up
a couple
right
weeks
now.
ago. Like, I think people now are doing things for intention, including shootings and killing people.
Yeah, those two kids, well, kids or not, they I think one was 16, man. I think they had told the cop, "Oh, we're just going to get a slap on the wrist. We'll be out in 30 days."
Yeah, literally one of them said that.
I don't think they realize what they have gotten themselves into.
Yeah, yeah. But that's a mindset, right? So they're like, oh, I'm going to do this prank. I'm going to post it on social media. You killed somebody.
Facts.
So I think the same thing with people running around, kids running around with guns. Like, oh, it's not a big deal. I'll just shoot someone for YouTube. Like, that's real life, though. You know, someone died. So,
Yeah, you don't get your respawn.
But I know the mindset is something bizarre.
It's a weird mindset.
And I think also, listen, some cities have district attorneys that are just weak, and you know, LA County, like, I think criminals probably know, hey, listen, if I do this, I'm going to get out on bail. There's no bail. I'll be okay. Maybe I'll do 12 months, but probably not, because there's no good witnesses. I think people process that knowing what I can get away with as a criminal.
Why do I feel like if I committed a crime, I'm gonna get booked and
You're
thrown
gone.
in fucking
Yeah,
jail?
you're gone for life. But
Yeah, why do they feel that way?
But if you're a bad guy,
Yeah.
and you claim certain, I was abused as a child, whatever they want to claim, it's almost embarrassing. And I don't really like talking about politics, but it's so blatant in our face.
Right.
Some of these counties and cities are just like, you know, but also talk about a pendulum. People have vacated San Francisco. People have vacated Seattle. People are leaving in droves. Corporations and retailers. Don't you think they're gonna wake up one day and say, shit, why did we let this happen?
So I don't like talking about politics either, but this is really good, and it's the truth.
Yeah.
Coming from two dudes that kind of know what the fuck
Yeah.
we're talking about. And you're right. I don't get into politics, republics.
Right.
I don't get into voting, but I heard somebody say the other day, people are voting with their feet. They're moving to fucking Texas. They're moving to Florida.
Yep.
They're picking up shops, Tesla. They're getting the fuck out of Dodge.
San Francisco, all these retailers are leaving. Oakland, Seattle. I mean, at some point, people are going to, oh, wow. Like, I was at an event this past weekend, 2 weekends in a row in Salt Lake City, Utah. And people are like, you still live in LA, man? Like, wow. Because there's other places where police are welcome. You know, people are embraced for what they do, and your thoughts and your freedoms and your rights. And it's not that way in a lot of places, unless you're a bad guy.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And then, you know, even the homeless crisis. Back in the 80s, 90s, was homeless bad?
I think we've always had homeless, but not to the point where it got. No, it's almost like out of control.
Like a crisis.
A crisis. And another thing, the new mayor spent millions upon millions of dollars and put a bunch of people in hotel rooms, and it looks good on the streets, right? Because the streets there's quite a few gone, but someone's paying for those hotel rooms.
What about when they close those mental health asylums? Did you notice the increase in fucking mental health on the streets?
Well, I think a lot of the homeless do have mental health issues and crisis. I mean, even when I worked West LA, there's the big VA hospital there. A lot of veterans live on the street just because they don't have the capacity. They're safer in the street, they feel, than being. And that's another thing I really had to learn to deal with, because I'm a veteran, and a lot of cops don't know how to deal with veterans. They just think
Man.
they're bad people, and you
Right.
come up on a guy, and clearly he's wearing. I quickly want to find out. Okay, did you serve?
Right.
I tell my partner, listen, he served in war. Let's not treat. He's got issues. Let's not treat. He's not a bad guy. He's just mentally not all there. And it's important for police to know that.
Right.
You know, don't judge a guy because he's all disheveled and smelly. You know.
So what's funny is, I worked in the prison system, so I think we were ahead of the game in dealing with the mental health issues, dealing with the convertible communications, dealing with the de-escalations, because we were already doing all of that 10, 15 years prior to the cops now doing it.
Yeah.
What about crack? When crack hit the streets, was it off the fucking hook in LA?
Crack was big. I remember there was a period of time where it seemed like if you stop somebody, in an undesirable area and there was 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, there was always a crack pipe on them. It just became so crazy. Yeah, crack. I don't know where it stands now in the usage.
Fentanyl is a thing.
Fentanyl seems to be, which is a whole nother. That's insane that people. I don't understand the business. Like, you're killing your customers, but
Right.
the drug dealers. But yeah, crack was massive then. Everyone was smoking crack.
Did it get phased out, or is that something that continued for
I
a
think
minute?
it continues, but it's not at the level it was. Yeah.
For sure. What advice would you give to somebody considering becoming a police officer?
I could tell you, it was for me. It was a boyhood dream, and obviously, I still work as a reserve, so I enjoy working with the community. I enjoy giving back. I enjoy all of it. So, I still think it's one of the best occupations in the world. I think you just need to go in eyes wide open, and know what you want to do. And if you have the right, demeanor and personality, I think it could be great. I mean, think about the benefits and all, but also keep in mind, it's a dangerous job. People die every day. So I still love the job, but it's just not what it used to be.
Some people could say the military is a dangerous job,
Sure.
but there's a sense of service with policing. Is there a sense of service to a community?
I think if you have the right mindset, I think so. I don't know what percentage. I'm not an analyst on
Right.
that, but I think there's a percentage of people that enjoy serving the community and truly, really like it.
Police officers wear many hats, man.
Yeah.
Mental health physicians,
Yeah.
counselors, it's like, do you think that those are appropriate roles for police officers, or should they design newer positions?
I think it is. I think being a police officer, you are a therapist, you're a negotiator, you're sometimes a counselor for marriage when you're in the middle of a domestic violence. I think those are all great traits to carry on through life. I don't know. I mean, to talk about social workers going on calls now, mental health experts. I think those are important, right? Because that's their expertise. I don't think a cop with a year out of the academy should be deciding whether I want to put a 72-hour hold on you and take you to a mental institution. I think that should be reserved for the professionals.
Right.
And same thing with, child services. Thank God child services, you call if it looks like there's some kind of situation with a child to evaluate. You make the initial evaluation, but yeah, I don't think it's their job to do the
Nice.
casework.
So what about these days, man? I see you out and about, man, rubbing elbows with some very important people, man. How's that going for you? What do you got currently going on? Share with the viewers, like, where they can find you.
It's going, as you know, I was one of the executives at Quest Nutrition, the protein bar. So I've been in that food space too. I still have the security business. I take care of a couple wealthy clients, and I'm going down the journey of doing podcasts. Obviously, I enjoy those. Personal coaching, one-on-one coaching,
Nice.
and public speaking.
Hell yeah.
So I have my own website. It's brucecardenas.com.
Cool. What
And
about you got an Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram, Bruce E. Cardenas for Instagram. And those are the two primary for now. Yeah.
Cool. Well, there you guys have it, folks. I brought somebody, first time bringing somebody that was a police officer during the 90s, man. You heard it here first. And a good, solid dude. He plugged in where you can find him. So go show him some love, right? Tap in, get to know him. Solid dude. It's all about building relationships and pushing a positive message, man. So thank you, Bruce, for coming on, dude.
Thank
This
you.
shit was a banger, man.
Thank you very much. It was
Yeah,
great.
man. So with that, thank you guys for watching. Keep pushing forward.